Hello and welcome to another one of the Cambridge School of Creative Industry podcasts. I'm James Warden, I head of school for the Cambridge School of Creative Industries here at Anglia Ruskin University. And as you'll be aware now, I'm spending the next few weeks and days going through meeting all of the course leaders we have in the school and catching up with them and getting a bit of an info about them, their careers and also their courses and alumni. So it's great to have you with us today. So, hi Sophie. Sophie Jackson is our course leader for film production. So it's really exciting that we've got Sophie here today. It's one of our most popular courses in the school, which is really good. So I'm going to start off, Sophie, with, can you tell us a bit about your job as a course leader and what you do in that role?
Yeah, sure. So also I'm the course leader for the BA film production, and of course we also have an MA in film and TV production.
Thank you for correcting me, Sophie. We will get to meet Kathy at a later date, so it's great.
So it's quite interesting to use a kind of a film analogy in terms of what my role is as the course leader. I do like to see myself as kind of a producer, right? Mm-hmm. Where I have to kind of wrangle together the other lecturers on the course, like Hans and David and the associate lecturers, and just make sure that we're all working towards the same kind of cohesive goal of a course that hangs together and works really well. But as you do with film, you know, there's always heads of different departments. There's the cinematography department, the sound department and whatever. Same with all the lecturers. You want to make sure that they're working towards their strengths and that they have ownership of that part, their modules. And it makes it a really nice kind of collaborative process. So although I am the course leader, the input of Hans and David is really important. I always say in a film anyhow, you know, 3 heads is better than 1. That collaboration makes something much more cohesive, much more interesting.
Great.
So obviously, I'm also then looking at the student experience and thinking about the future. But I think and how it fits into the School of Creative Industries and how we can use all the other students and work with other courses as well, like the film drama course that we've been doing work with now. But I think it is like that film analogy. It's like how do you bring all these different things together and make it a cohesive whole with a vision?
Yeah.
So that's how I see my role.
And I think you gave us a hint at my next question, which is, could you tell us about your professional background as you just did that hint slightly in. So over to you about being a producer.
Yeah. So I'm a filmmaker and a producer. I often tell the startup story to our students because it relates back to the experience that they're going through. So I went to an art school back in the day where you did a little bit of everything, and I majored in film, but the level of delivery and information that we got back then in terms of what we do now for film, it was nothing, you know. And there was one class where everyone on the class worked towards just the one film, a 16 millimetre film. It was really exciting to be on this. And we'd vote for who was going to direct it. But then all the other roles were pulled out of a hat. and I pulled producer out of a hat, right?
Yeah.
And it just kind of worked because obviously there was a lot of, they were my skills. I was a little bit bossy, kind of happy to take the lead on things. But the other really nice thing that happened on that film was the director and the cinematographer, Frank and Robert, and my co-producer, Kath. We just clicked. You know, we were all engaged in the same level. The film that we ended up making that time, we got a little grant to finish. It was the first time anyone had actually finished it to cinema projection, to actually getting a release print. We band together and we had a big screening in a proper cinema and had 300 people watching our little 10-minute 16mm film. I mean, it wasn't that great, but it was very exciting. And to see your name up on the big screen while everyone's watching it in a proper cinema was really wonderful.
Great.
It turned out then that Robert and Frank, so these people that I met in my BA, we ended up going to the National Film and Television School And I continued to make films. I had a production company with Robert for 15 years while I was in Australia. And we were making all sorts of commissioned work, from, short feature films to documentaries to art or dance films. Then I came to the UK, and for a little while I retrained as a script editor. So all that, the story, script writing, shaping a film, a drama film, I did until I kind of came to teaching. So still making films, smaller scale, because the teaching part's quite
takes a bit of time, doesn't it?
Does take a little bit of time.
And so basically fate threw the lucky producer bit of paper out the hat, which is exciting.
Yeah, I wonder whether I would have found it anyhow.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, that's really good. So leading on from that, can you tell us about your course, please?
Okay, so the BA Film Production, it's a practice-based course, as we say. So it's predominantly learning by doing. So right from day one, or then the first week, we start to make films. I like to think of it as you develop over the 3 years, in this kind of cohesive course that we talk about, we start from ideas to finished product. So even in first year, you're starting on your ideas. You take it all the way through all the stages of production, shooting, editing, to having a film that you're happy to show. And then as you move through the whole 3 years, that the level and the standard and our expectations get higher. We're working with industry protocols to make sure everyone is kind of set ready when they go out. But within that, you also have the opportunity to develop your own personal ideas. So there'll be a lot of teamwork and bigger films where you're working as the cinematographer or the editor or the camera assistant or what have you. But then there's always, in every year, an opportunity to be doing something quite individual or personal or creative or experimental. So it's that mixture of exploring yourself, you know, discovering without having to pull out of the hat necessarily what might be your kind of true vocation. You just get that opportunity to try to everyone does camera, everyone does editing at the beginning to make sure we have those good skills. Everyone does sound, so that if you get a job as a videographer, you'll be able to go and do that yourself, most of the stuff yourself. Equally, you might decide along the way it is absolutely editing. I love sitting here in the edit suite.
Very particular person likes that, isn't it?
in the dark room, or if it's cinematography that you want to go to. So you have that time over the 3 years to start to explore where you think you're most interested in going. But at the same time, you'll get that good grounding in some of the core skills.
Yeah. You know. And so do you find with your students coming on board, do some of them come knowing they want to be an editor or a camera operator, or do they just come with just a general knowledge about film, not quite sure, and just discover, or do people just think, I'm going to be an editor, and then they think, oh, actually, and then they become a producer? So what's the type of student who comes to you?
It's a mix.
Okay,
Sometimes people will come and they just know that it's cinematography that they want to do. They love lenses. They love the whole technical side of things. And they'll just keep on that focus.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I really love actually is when they come on and you know, at the start, and we say, oh, where would you like to go? And you know, and they think, oh, it's going to be directing, and I have to be doing drama, and I want to be like Tarantino or something. And then at the end they go, documentary is for me. You know, the areas that they hadn't even considered, because they get exposed to all of these things, and they suddenly realize like the power in documentary. So I mean, I also think that's part of doing a BA, isn't it? You know, over the 3 years, discovering skills, being pushed a little bit to seeing and watching stuff you haven't seen before, testing something out, finding out that's that's what you really love.
Yeah, no, it's a great few years just to experiment, isn't it, before the commercial world hits you with a bang. So sort of leading on from there, sort of, I know your students win a lot of awards, but is there some of the alumni or student successes which you want to talk to us about today?
Oh, okay.
One of the many, I should say.
Well, I was thinking about this a little bit, and I mean, in terms of careers and things like that, I think in this industry, it actually takes about 10 years before you're in a role like you are the cinematographer of something commercial or what have you. So I was thinking back to the graduates that I had just a tiny bit of interaction with to start off with. And I wrote down some of them who were in that kind of 7 to 10 years out.
Right,
you
okay,
know.
that's good.
And Evelyn, who made like a really fantastic experimental 16mm film as her final film. She's been a second unit cinematographer on some feature films, and she's just this year been the DP on a television series. Right. Her credit came up. Who else was there? Martin is a first AD and controls the sets on things like EastEnders. So he's like just totally on it for all of that kind of stuff. Sam, who actually, it is interesting, Sam specialised and really wanted to be a cinematographer, and so on the graduation films he worked as a cinematographer. Then he went into a medium-sized production company, and they realised how good he was at script and at producing. So now he's actually a production executive for a small production company that does make feature films and distributes feature films. So he's looking at all the scripts that come in. He goes to Cannes with the producer. Right. They decide on projects, and then he starts to manage the project. So, you know, film careers are often wiggly. You never know where you might end up. Of the more like recent graduates, we had a visit just last week from Amber, who immediately when she left, she was working at BBC East here, which was a really interesting experience for her. But her absolute desire was to try, you know, her favourite show was The Crown.
Oh, okay, yes, on Netflix, yeah.
And she'd done a couple of days just shadowing while she was a student with us. And I'm really pleased to say that she eventually got in on the team. She's just done 8 months on season 5.
Right.
It seems like they'll probably take her back season 6, but she'll get to move up, hopefully, to director's assistant, where she'll be, rather than between the production office and running on set and meeting all those departments, she'll be able to develop that relationship with some of the directors, and slowly but surely move towards her own desire to be a director. Yeah,
I mean, that's great, isn't it, that students had an idea like, I want to work on The Crown, and then suddenly a couple of years after graduation they're there. And I think that's really exciting about students' resilience and dedication to actually working hard and being professional from day one, isn't it? Which is really exciting.
Just keeping up with the little connections that she'd made and following those people, and taking the opportunity to say, hey, have a look at my graduation film, which was one that she shot in an army tank.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
It was a fabulous film, you know, and it got nominated for RTS awards, so she also had that on her CV.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And so, did she give you any spoilers about the latest season on Crown, what's coming, or was she completely professional, I'm sure, and didn't tell you anything at all?
She was. She was completely professional.
I wish expect. So, talk about RTS. Do you want to talk a little bit about RTS? Because obviously some of our listeners might not know what RTS stands for and why we're so successful with them.
Oh, okay. So it's the Royal Television Society, and they do student awards by... bang the mic, sorry. The RTS, it's a Royal Television Society. Yeah. They do student awards.
Yeah.
And we're usually in a region with a number of other universities and film courses. And the last few years we've been really successful, and won quite a lot of a lot of the awards, which is a lovely reward for the students and all their hard work, because they really do put in that hard work.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing to have on your CV as well. And then when it's on your CV, then or when it's on that film, when you're entering it into other film festivals, you can say that it got this. It's going to get a little bit more attention and notice.
Yeah.
And they get fabulous actual awards.
Yeah. No, it's really,
they're really good.
They're good. And I joined ARU about 18 months ago. And I know when I got offered the job and when I was doing my research, I was really impressed by the number of RTS awards, because often universities might win one, if they're lucky, every other year or something like that. Whereas, we win multiple awards each year, which is really great. Which is a great testament to the course, the students and the staff. It's really great. So watch out, viewers, the next RTS Awards, and let's see how many winners we get from ARU again with that one.
When I was thinking about the podcast, I was thinking about when we first won an award, which was probably about 5 years ago. It was an award through NAHIMI, which is the National Association of something in I've forgotten. It's all the film production courses.
Yeah.
And they had a kind of an Eat Our Shorts thing where any member could send in, university could send in to, I think there was a time limit of how many productions they could go in. And back then, Shripali and I were just redesigning the course quite a lot, changing it from the way it had been when we'd first started working on the course. And a second year film won the audience award. And it was so lovely because we were absolutely not expecting it. We were the little course that was doing these good things, and it was the first time we'd entered something, and we knew we'd been doing all these changes, and we knew it was a lovely film. But it was just so exciting to suddenly realise, actually, yes, we are doing something really good, really interesting, that people like, and again, so great for the second year students to actually get something.
That's great.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So leading on from that, what do you think is the most exciting aspect of your course and your role at the moment, which you can talk to us about?
Oh, okay. So the most exciting thing that's happening at the moment really is to see the work coming from second year students and third year students. And I mention them particularly because they've spent so much time in lockdown.
Yeah, that's true.
And they were great in lockdown, like working out crazy and different ways of making films and doing it online, and as soon as they got a chance, going out there. But it's so great to see them now working properly in teams, properly working together and on crews, properly really investing in the process of making the film, which they just couldn't do. I mean, that is what filmmaking is about. That's the excitement of it. It's like great to work with a whole lot of people, to collaborate, and to do that in this kind of quite intense environment. And so that's really exciting. To the point where it was even really exciting just last week, sitting in our screening room, watching the rough cuts of some of the third year films, and just to sit back and see it on the big screen. And even though there were rough cuts, it just went, oh, wow, okay, this is what it's meant to be like. This is what we're doing. Even though there's some good and some bad feedback here in terms of how to take the next steps on the film, it just felt exciting and like we were back making films that are meant to be on the big screen.
And I think that's a really good point, because many of the listeners today will be finishing off their BTECs or their UAL awards over the 2 years, and you will have had, speaking to you out there, you'll have had a difficult time the last 2 years. I think what's great is the filmmakers, and just hearing from you how, even though it might have been difficult for the last 2 years, when you arrive with us in September or the following September, depending where you are in your education, is that they can really pick up those skills, run, and they don't feel they're left behind, and really, go on to be exciting sort of filmmakers of the future, I think, which is really exciting. So do hold on, listeners out there, if you're feeling a bit fed up with it all. We do understand, but we've got some, as Sophie said, we've got a screening room, we've got some great facilities here at ARU, and we're investing more and more in the film, so it'd be great you'll be able to out on set with us as soon as you get here. So that's great. So moving on, Sophie, can you tell us a bit about what you think the future vision of the course might be?
Well, I think in many respects we will continue to do what we were doing well before.
Yeah.
And while we're film production, you know, that encompasses high-end television as well. It encompasses if you want to go out and become a videographer or do online content. We give you all of those skills to do that. And so you have to, and at the moment, obviously, high-end television is a big employer, a lot of money in it. You know, we hope they're not ups and downs in the cycle of that, but a lot of that now is quite a bit of it is virtual production.
Right. Yeah.
You know, even in advertising and things like that. So I think when I'm looking to the future, we will continue to do all of those hard skills. But there is always, within virtual production, there is always still the live stuff that you have to do. Yeah. But building in the processes and the flow paths and the pipeline so that our students understand where, if there's going to be a lot of visual effects in there, where does that live action sit within the pipeline of creating the films that are now using a lot of virtual filmmaking. So I think we'll need to be building that in more. We already have an optional module that's immersive filmmaking. So, you know, using 3D, 3D filmmaking and just thinking different ideas about how you use that, how that can communicate stories or messages or the intensity of your storytelling. So I think more of the same because we're doing it well. Yeah. And then just looking at how you build in more and different technologies, you know, keeping on top of where there's, you know, software changes and things like that. Yeah,
that's great. Well, is there anything else which I've missed to ask you, which you'd like to talk to the listeners out there about?
It's fun.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's also really hard work. So I, you know, if we were at my open day, I always on the last slide where it talks about how do you apply. Yeah. I put up a still from one of the shoots where they're all standing out in a forest. And there's the actors are all in Second World War uniforms, and there's a big jib there with the camera on it, but it's pouring with rain. Everyone's under umbrellas and everything. Yeah. And I always say, well, you know, it's a great industry to be in, so long as you're very happy. Yeah. to be out there in the rain and in the forest. Yeah.
There's the ups and the downs, isn't there? But it's always what I love about it is there's so many people. Because you're working as a team, isn't it? It's that collective, and there's always that excitement and everything off it, even if it is terrible weather, unlike today, which is beautiful in Cambridge. So that's great. Well, thank you very much, Sophie, and thank you very much, listeners, for listening in today. It's been really good to meet Sophie Jackson, hear more about the undergraduate film production course here at ARU. Tune in to many of our other course leader interviews where you can understand more about other courses from music, film, television, and other performance courses. And we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you at one of our open days coming up soon. Thanks very much. Bye.